Lights, camera, action! The first ever San Diego Film Week is happening February 10th to 19th at the Museum of Photographic Arts. Join us for award-nominated local films, industry workshops, and screenings from some of San Diego's diverse film festivals, including the San Diego Latino Film Fest, San Diego Asian Film Festival, the GI Film Fest SD, and more. For tickets and more info, visit sandiegofilmweek.com. Hey, intellectuals, are you looking for something new to listen to? Tired of the same old podcasts? Make sure you're checking out Erie Canal Theater. They're based out of Detroit, Michigan, and they're doing some amazing things. They create what they call audio cartoons. This is original theater for your imagination. It's like classic radio plays, but cool new stories. Check out Switchboard Infinity. It's their sci-fi audio play. You'll love it. Go to eriecanaltheater.com for more information on all of their shows, or just search them out on your favorite podcast player. Erie Canal Theater. It's like giving your ears a gift.
Hello there, citizens. I am the terror that flaps in the night. I am the floaty that will not flush no matter how many times you try in the toilet bowl of crime. I am Darkwing Duck, telling you please, talk hard and enjoy the mindgasm. Whatever the heck that means. After all, you are watching Intellectual Podcast with your ears.
Welcome to the 180th episode of the Intellectual Podcast. I'm your host, Dave Dawson. Thanks for joining us here in 2017. I believe this is our first podcast back since the beginning of the new year. It's been a good break. Had a really good holidays. I hope you did as well. We all needed it after the craziness that was the election in November. And I think we're going to need another break here pretty soon after the craziness that will be Inauguration Day. That's enough politics for now, though. We're going to get into some fun stuff on today's podcast. We sat down with TJ Shevlin at San Diego Comic Art Gallery and IDW Publishing and talked comics and popular culture, and it was awesome. And you're going to love it. TJ is incredibly well-versed in popular culture and comics, and we had a wonderful discussion. This one is with me and Carla, as it was a midday on a weekday, and the delightful Whitney Wegman, unfortunately, had to work. So Carla and I did our duty, braved the rain, and marched all the way down to downtown from where we live, way up in the North County area and South Orange County areas of the Southland. But it was well worth it. TJ was a wonderful person to talk to, and I think you're going to enjoy this podcast immensely. And don't forget, San Diego Film Week is coming in February 10th to the 19th, with screenings at the Museum of Photographic Arts in Balboa Park, feature films showing at the Digital Media Arts Center, and events happening all over town, such things as filming workshops for those of you interested in how to make movies, market movies, get permits done for movies. All sorts of stuff's going to be covered at the workshops during Film Week. And of course, highlights from all of the major film festivals here in San Diego will happen at Film Week. So it's your chance to see what all the film is about in San Diego. So make sure you come out to Film Week. You can check out and get tickets at filmconsortiumsd.com as that stuff becomes available. So until then, sit back and listen to the Intellectual Podcast. This is number 180 with TJ Shevlin at San Diego Comic Art Gallery.
Talk hard and enjoy the mindgasm. The Intellectual Podcast starts now.
So we are sitting here at the San Diego Comic Art Gallery with TJ Shevlin.
In this wonderful little library.
In the IDW library. Like, this is incredibly cool. We didn't get to come in here the other night when we came.
No, we kind of had it closed off just because there were so many people in here that night. So I'm always a little afraid because it's such a tight space, and not that anybody would, but there's always that mentality. I used to manage a comic book store for years. You're always worried that someone might walk off with something. So
in a room like this, I could see that being a fear. You know, I want to walk off with these terracotta transformers.
Oh, I know. It's the coolest, man. It's kind of neat to see that little mix of global history and Cybertronian badassery. So all coming together.
So tell us a little bit about the gallery. Like,
Sure.
When did it open? Because I know it's not terribly old.
Yeah, no, the gallery opened June 5th. Yes, June 5th of 2015.
So you'll be coming up on 2 years this summer.
Yeah, we're really excited about that. I mean, it's been a really interesting 2 years, so it's been fun to kind of see where we were and where we are now. And just, it started really, really small. We had a lot of art. It was, mostly Kevin Eastman's artwork, which is not a bad thing to have mostly of. But now it's really grown in the last nearly 2 years into not just a celebration of Kevin's work and a celebration of IDW, but a celebration of comics. We've showcased so many different artists and different publishers, and it's been fun for us.
Well, that's an interesting comment, because as a filmmaker, like, I'm acutely aware of the Marvel Cinematic Universe versus DC Cinematic Universe and the internet trolls.
Yeah.
You either love one or the other. There's no love for both. If you love both, you're full of crap.
It's nonsense.
Which is total nonsense. But
yeah.
I get, from my time at Nerd HQ at Comic-Con, from my time at Comic-Con, the comics world, the drawing world, the art world still seems to be fairly supportive of one another and holding up and building up the art form, not just the particular book, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's such a big deal is for me at least, the idea that we all love comic books. You can like one thing more than the other, but this idea of one or the other is really, really limiting. And it almost, to me, it feels like you're not being loyal to one thing. You're doing yourself a disservice by cutting off so many other really great things that could end up having an impact on you or influencing you, maybe even changing the way you view art and sequential art and comics and all of it. And
storytelling.
Oh, absolutely. And when I got lucky when I was growing up. I worked at a comic shop, my first job in high school. So whatever I wasn't buying, I was still reading at the shop, and so I was reading everything. And I don't think I would love comics the way I do and be into the overall love that I have with this industry if not for reading everything that was put in front of me, good or bad. You can't make the decisions on what you like or what you don't like if you're only trying one thing.
Well, it's like when you're a kid growing up, like, you don't know what vegetables you don't like.
Exactly.
Unless you actually try them.
And
you call the kids out all the time, like, I don't like that. Have you ever tried it?
No,
I just know I won't like it. How do you know you don't like it? You haven't tried it.
Exactly. And now
you might like My Little Pony if you actually sit down and read it.
Oh yeah. And that's the thing. I mean, as an adult, I love Brussels sprouts. I mean, I tell everybody all the time, comic books, and it's kind of a fitting analogy considering where we are, but comic books to me are a lot like pizza. Everybody loves pepperoni, right? But every once in a while, you kind of want black olives and green peppers. And pepperoni to me is superheroes. Superheroes certainly represent comic books in a way that few other genres do. Mm-hmm. But comic books are not superheroes. Comic book is a medium. Superheroes are a genre. And you want to hope that maybe you'll try, the horror movie that is eggplant on your pizza, or, the romance of pineapple on your pizza.
Yeah, because there have been comic books that have actually not, I wouldn't say glorified, but showcased the anti-hero.
Oh, for sure. And, it's I guess it's interesting because, especially when I was a kid, the anti-hero with, your Wolverines, your Punishers, your Spawns, your guys like that was the rage, and that was
the era of
anti-hero. Totally. Yeah. And
it's always good to love a bad guy.
Yeah, oh, for sure. But,
And this is why Carla's single and unhappy.
Well, I am not unhappy.
You didn't answer the other part. But, And then, you like, for example, we mentioned Wolverine, right? Mm-hmm. You take a character like Wolverine who was mysterious, badass, anti-hero guy, but then what else do you have? And as the character has gone on, especially over the last 15 years, now he's become the teacher, the mentor, the Ronin, the guy who doesn't want to be the killer that everybody expects him to be. And that, to me, is much more fascinating.
Always trying to go against type.
Absolutely. And now it's not just, oh, cool, he's a badass who kills dudes. Now it's, this is a guy who doesn't want people to go down the road that he's gone through because of what it's done to him. So he takes all these younger mutants and even Spider-Man in some ways under his wing to kind of steer them away from that. And that's, to me, the evolution of comics in terms of characterization and storytelling is huge. And it's great because when people come in here, we'll go with the Turtles, for example. People see the roots with Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird at Mirage Studios. And, you know, the Turtles were certainly gritty and it was certainly kind of badass and all that. But most people only remember that part. They always forget the most important dynamic to a Turtles book, to a Turtles anything, is the family dynamic. Is that they're brothers and Splinter's a father. And there's this kind of fractured family that comes in with April and then with Casey. And all of that kind of builds around one another. And so all the cool, like the fighting and the cursing and the blood and the killing and all that, it's great, but it's so minuscule compared to what was the constant of the Turtles and our book.
It was one of the things that drew me to the Ninja Turtles when I was young, because I was right at the right age for the Turtles when they hit, because I was late elementary school, junior high, like around the time they came out, right? So they were my thing. And what drew me into them was I came from a fractured home at that point. My parents had divorced. We were living with my dad. Yeah. So I had the single father figure raising the three kids. And it was me and my two sisters. And we were this little unit that was like the three of us against the world. And our dad kind of looking out for us, you know, but he came and went. And, he wasn't always there. Too. And it was very unconventional at the time. You know, it was very hard to deal with.
Idea
and I just really latched on to that sense of, we're a little unit. It's us. We're going to make this work.
Against the world.
And when people make their way in, they're in.
Yeah.
You know, like April being the adopted sister. I
came from a single father, and there was the three of us and my dad. So I can relate totally to what you're saying in that. And I tell everybody comic books were always the constant. You know, superheroes were always there, especially as things were kind of rocky and tumultuous and all that. And that's the beauty of something like the Turtles. So when we get people who come in and they get to meet Kevin, or they get to look at all this turtle art, whether it's the Mirage art, we had cartoon art for a long time in here. Like we had some cells and production sketches from the cartoon. And then all the way up to the IDW title, you know, people get such a sense of almost familiarity to the point of connection with those characters, because things may be a little tough for them, but that's that family that they've built. And that's the power of fiction. I tell everybody all the time, it doesn't matter whether your moral compass is Peter Parker or Holden Caulfield. If you get something out of fiction, that's the job of fiction.
Right.
And that's kind of my goal with the gallery, is getting comics fans to come in here is fish in a barrel. I can do that 8 days a week and twice on Sunday. But when I get people in here who have never read a comic book before, and they have no real understanding of our industry, of our history, of all the things that comics has influenced, and maybe they know it from the movies, but that's all they have. My goal is for them to leave with a new appreciation of our medium, of the influence that comic books has had over the course of the last 75, 80 years. And it's always great when you see them leave and they leave with a newer appreciation for what it is that we do. They leave with a new appreciation for the art, for the artist, for just how much it takes to make one 22-page single-issue comic book. They see the videos of us lettering and cover design and all that.
Now here in the gallery, you have that on the screens going on.
The video
is that live?
No, we had talked about wanting to do live at some point without killing the bandwidth in here, but for now it's all just video loops. Okay. But we'll probably have.
It's fascinating.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, one of them is the cover design for our Little Nemo hardcover, and then the other one is lettering on an issue of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Amazing Adventures.
Right.
So, and it's great because it's two totally different things, and I don't ever want to say two totally different fan bases, because the beauty of comics is, you know, it's not about, oh, well, you only like this one and not this one. Most comics fans, it's two things. They want to read everything and they want to talk about it all. You know, there's very, you know, there's still that sense of the gatekeeper mentality, which I've never really agreed with. Anybody who loves something, they want to talk about it all the time. They want to share it, and they want people to love it the way they do because of what it means to them. And you don't see that with anything the way you see it with comic books, and it's because there's such a passion for the material. There's a passion for the characters, and there's almost this secret handshake amongst comics fans, and they can't wait to teach you the secret handshake.
And that's why Comic-Con became such a big phenomenon.
Absolutely.
Even before they started bringing in all the movies and the celebrities and things like that, it was starting to grow.
Well, it's always been a community, and it's nice because now it just seems bigger because, and really, like anything, it's bigger because of social media, because of the internet, because of the accessibility that all of that brings. And now you get to see, like, there's probably some dude in Kentucky who all he's been wanting to do is talk about his favorite issue of Batman, and he doesn't have anybody to talk about it with, and then he can get on the internet, make some friends, fly out to a convention, and they get together. Or some girl who maybe feels like, she can't talk about her love of comic books because the archaic mentality that comics are for boys, which we all know is nonsense. And then, she finds friends at her local comic shop, and then they create a reading group together. And that's all comics, all anything is a tribe. And all of us, we're just looking for our tribesmen. And comics, it's a really great way of finding like-minded people. You just got to look for the T-shirts that they're wearing or the tattoos that they have. We all wear it on our sleeve.
Yeah,
it's
easier to find each other these days.
Oh, absolutely.
Just across the board, not just because of the internet, but because of graphic tees and tattoos. And like we wear our nerddom like a badge of honor.
Oh yeah,
these days.
because
whereas when I was a kid, like you were a nerd, you didn't tell anybody.
I got Superman because I identify with Superman.
It's passion, all of this is passion. Like you've got guys and girls who love sports and they're obsessed with stats and players and all that. It's the same thing as knowing Amazing Fantasy 15 and the difference between that and Amazing Spider-Man issue 1.
Yeah.
And knowing who inked what and
exactly.
and who drew what.
If you can tell me that Mike Royer's inks on Jack Kirby are better than Vince Coletta's, some would say, oh, that's nerdy. And like to me, that's passion. That's loving something and needing to know everything.
And that's what being a nerd is.
Yeah, it's the voracious search for knowledge.
And getting to your thing about, sports, the point that I used to make, and I've heard other people make it lately, is like, fantasy football
it's Dungeons
and Dragons for jocks.
Totally.
Yeah.
Oh,
they
absolutely.
are every bit as big a nerd as any of the rest of us who do comic books and whatever else. And like, I've made that point to a couple of my friends who were football players in high school and stuff. No, one of them actually looked at me and went, "Oh, damn." He's like, really? Like, it totally took him aback. And I'm like, man, you're just as big a nerd as I am. Like,
everybody's nerdy for something.
You just color it differently.
Yeah. And, it's great. I mean, on the one hand, like, say you love cooking, you love
all those cooking shows out
that.
there. There's a reason why there's a Food Network.
Yeah, then you've got a book like Jiro loves Get Jiro from DC Vertigo, which was the whole like the sushi world and the Japanese mafia, and it's like, cool, you like food, read that book. You like football, then there's weird sports stories, and there's literally something for everybody. And I think that's what I love about what I get to do in here is people can come in and they'll be surprised to see something on the wall. Like a great example is I had somebody come in a few months ago. I want to say, wow, maybe longer, maybe about 8 months ago. We had an exhibit in here, and it was art from Daredevil End of Days by Brian Michael Bendis and David Mack. And all the art is Bill Sienkiewicz and Klaus Janson. So it's like two of the best Daredevil writers of all time and two of the best Daredevil artists of all time coming together to do a Daredevil miniseries, which is super cool. And we had, I want to say about 10 pages of art from that in there. And this is right when season 2 of Daredevil hit on Netflix. And it was great because I had people coming in and they were so excited to see Daredevil, not because they read the comics before, but because they recognize it because they watched the show.
Right.
And that stigma, Daredevil has always been such a fan favorite character and people love him. But there's always been that stigma to people who don't read comics of the Ben Affleck movie, and they always go to that. And now that's changed, more people are interested in seeing the character's roots in the comics because they saw what you do when you handle Daredevil right outside of comics, you know? And so just her
There's still a big
excitement.
debate from some people on whether or not those things are being handled right. But I think what you're seeing more now in the film universe and the TV universe is a better representation of what we've seen in the
Certainly.
comics.
Yeah, it's like the Hollywood has stopped trying to reinvent the wheel as far
Just
as
drive
those
the car.
stories goes.
Yeah.
They go back.
Well, they
to
all
comic
wanted to
books.
do Christopher Reeve Superman. That was like
Right.
That was what they all wanted, and then they had Tim Burton's Batman, and it's like, okay, well, that was still kind of larger than life, cartoony representation of the material. Granted,
Right.
Burton was dark, but it wasn't Christopher Nolan type dark. And it just
It's just very
Hollywood liked the bubblegum flavor of it, and they seem to finally be understanding that comics doesn't mean that.
Like, for example, like The Walking Dead, they've gone back to, or try to, as much as they possibly can, stay with what was written in the comics.
Yeah, and that's the beauty of source material is I know a lot of dudes, and when I was younger, especially when I was like 19, 20, I was very much if it's not like the comics, then what's the point? It has to be exactly page for page, line for line, and the older I got, the more it's like, well, I've read that. I don't necessarily need page for page, line for line. The most important thing with adapting anything is consistency of characterization. If the foundation of these characters and the world that they live in is there, tell all the stories you want to. I'm a bit of a Transformers nerd, and Ultra Magnus is one of the main Autobot characters. On the toy, on the box of the original toy in '86, the package has a quote for each character, and his was "Consistency is the key to victory." And I feel like that for everything that we do in comics, but especially with adaptations. You don't have to do the exact 6 issues of your favorite story arc, but I see Superman kill somebody, I see Batman kill somebody, it pulls me out. It's the most jarring thing, because if there's one thing that those two characters hold of importance above all else is the value of all life. You know, I don't need things to be so realistic that I'm hearing about Batman losing cartilage in his knees. I want to know about Batman doing cool, badass Batman things, and the reality of it is his humanity, his compassion. That it's not just beat up a bad guy and throw him in Arkham and throw away the key. It's beat up a bad guy, put him in Arkham, and then Bruce Wayne is putting money into the system to make sure that these men and women are getting rehabilitated, because they're just as much victims of crime as he is. Right. Certain villains aside.
The thing I would like to see more well represented in the movies is in terms of Batman goes, and I've got a long history of Batman.
For sure.
And Batman. But the thing that I would like to see represented better that hasn't been is the detective side of Batman.
Absolutely.
Like, you don't see that in the film versions of Batman.
The development of projects. Anything.
The projects, but figuring out who the villain is and what the villain's doing and where is he going and
what's his motivation.
All of that is missing in the films for me.
I got lucky. I feel like I got lucky because the material that I grew up with is every generation feels like their Batman is the best take on Batman, and it's very polarizing more than any other character. Spidey's mostly pretty continuous in that regard. Superman is very representative of his eras, but the character always mostly gets better with every creator that gets on there. But with Batman, it's fascinating because you'll have the guys who grew up on like Carmen Infantino. I'm like, oh yeah, that's the best Batman right there. And then you'll have your O'Neill and Adams, or your Rogers and Englehart, Mike Barr, all those guys, and Max Collins and Alan Davis. But then you get to for me, I feel like I got really lucky because I grew up on Alan Grant and Norm Breyfogle on Batman. And then I grew up on Chuck Dixon writing every Batman book. And to me, that's Batman at his most interesting. And again, at least to me, because you've got this really dark, grim sort of guy, but he's still in the blue and gray. You don't have the black or anything like that. And for as dark and as scary and terrifying as Batman was, especially with Norm Breyfogle doing the artwork or Kelly Jones doing the artwork, all these different guys, the compassion of what he did was paramount. It was the most important thing to him. making sure, that what he was doing was trying to give everybody a second chance.
Right.
Harvey Dent's a victim of crime, right?
Right.
Mr. Freeze is a victim of crime. Poison Ivy's a victim of crime. Man-Bat, Clayface, all those characters. And when you have that era, like when Chuck Dixon is writing and Alan Grant's writing, Batman is this badass dude for sure, but he wants to see all of them get a chance at having a normal life again.
Redemption.
Because what's Batman looking for? Batman's looking for a second chance as well. He feels guilty because he couldn't do anything about saving his parents, but what could he do? Whereas Dick Grayson could have easily saved his parents if he was up in the trapeze and he couldn't get to them because he was on the ground.
Right.
So guys like Chuck Dixon really fleshed out that character in a way where it's not just Batman the lone grim Avenger anymore. It's Batman with a Batcave full of people. You've got Alfred in there, and then you've got Harold, their mechanic, in there, and then Dick showing up as Nightwing, Tim as Robin, Barbara Gordon as Oracle, and you got this big family, and everything. The most important factor in what they were writing, aside from that family dynamic, it was less about the physical and more about the mental. It was the detective work, the intelligence, the kind of importance of methodology.
Right.
Batman certainly is the greatest fighter, which in turn means Nightwing and Robin are clearly the greatest fighters because they were trained by him.
Right.
But more than that, it was the intelligence. It was how do you solve these crimes with your brain, with your intelligence, with your wits, not with your hands and with your gadgets.
Right. And with the people you've collected around you.
Absolutely.
I think that's where, for better or worse, the Arrowverse, I think, does a really good job with that. The Flash,
Arrow is a great Batman show.
Yeah, it's wonderful.
Arrow is a great Batman show. And if
Yeah.
it was just Batman, Robin, and Nightwing on there, instead of Green Arrow and Speedy and Arsenal and all them,
Yeah.
I think you could really do something special. But for what it's worth, they do a bang up job with taking Green Arrow and doing something with him. And I don't want to call it Batman Light because I think that does a disservice to what they've done with it.
Right.
But it's certainly more than just guy with a bow.
Yeah.
That's tough.
And they're really.
I wasn't a fan of Green Arrow at all. Like, when the show first came on, I didn't watch it. Like, Carla kept telling me, "You got to watch Arrow. It's really good." I'm like, "Yeah, the dude with the goatee, like, really?
Yeah.
Come on." Yeah. I'm like, "Nah, it's like
Ollie's a tough character."
And it's the same thing with Hawkeye in the Marvel universe. I didn't care for Hawkeye either. Like, I just didn't read the comics. I didn't care. But they've both become characters in their current forms on television and in film where I'm like, wow, these guys are really interesting.
And you do get to see some growth in them, for better or for worse, in whichever direction, whatever that episode happens
and
to
not
be.
always for better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you look at a great example of growth for characters and becoming more than what they were. I'll go back to the Turtles on this. When I was growing up, Leonardo was the leader, and Donatello was the smart guy, Raphael's the attitude guy, and
Right.
Mikey, of course, is the party dude. And then when you read our current book at IDW for Ninja Turtles, Tom Waltz, our writer on the book, he's really taken those very simple foundations for those characters and has made them so much more. And Leo, you've got as the dutiful eldest son, and he's the leader, and he has this weight on his shoulders, and he's hoping he does right by their father and does right by his brothers, but is he doing right by himself, and all those things. And Donatello has this question of faith, the spiritual side of ninjutsu. He doesn't buy into it because how can you prove it?
He's the analytical thinker.
Exactly. And that's put contention between Leo and Donnie rather than the typical Leo and Raph butting heads. Raphael, you've got this guy who's so angry and full of, he's this ball of rage, but he doesn't want to be that guy, and for him, it's so much, I give into it, but it's not the guy I want to be all the time. And, I'm trying to find something that makes me feel whole. He's trying to find something that completes him. And with Mikey, it's great because since he's the little brother, it's not just about Michelangelo as the party dude and the skater and all of that. Now he's their moral compass. He's their conscience. And for him, his goal with them is to be superheroes, because superheroes do the right thing and they have the ability to do the right thing. Right. And we should be out there always doing what we can to help people.
Ever the optimist.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's tough because Mikey, being the youngest, sees the world in black and white, not realizing just how gray our world is.
Right.
And it's a great black and white. For me, it's what I call the Spider-Man black and white. There's right and wrong, and there is no compromise, and you do the right thing. If you don't do the right thing, you're complicit. And I like that about Mikey, because it's not just, funny guy and silly dude and all that. Mikey gets to be, in some ways, each of the Turtles in some ways is every reader.
Right.
But Mikey gets to be a good chunk of comic book readers, because so much of why he wants to do the right thing is because he loves comic books.
Right.
And that's any of us.
Yeah.
Any of us who read comic books are influenced by what we read all the time. There's, Batman's sense of putting others' needs before himself, Spider-Man's sense of responsibility and duty, and, Captain America always doing the right thing even at his own expense. And, with the Turtles, you get to do those kinds of stories, but in a tangible way for them as well, where now, you got a reader who can relate to them in a way that they weren't able to before.
Right. I think that's one of the really interesting things about the comic book genre overall, is that with 70, 80 years of history, it's not that everybody comes in and creates a new comic book, right? It's like writers come in and take the mantle of a franchise and carry it forward for a period of time and bring their learned experiences, their memory of what the franchise was before and the things they wish they saw it do, and they expand on it, and then it gets expanded again. And with each generation that comes up, they're taking the mantle up for all these different stories and making them bigger and richer and
it's a tapestry.
And altering, not fundamentally altering characters, but taking the essence of what they were when they were kids and building on
letting
that.
them
and
grow.
it's
Making them
fascinating.
much more complex.
Yeah, it's fascinating to watch that development in all of the comics.
Yeah, and the thing with that is everybody always says, "Oh, I'm looking for I want comics to be darker and all that." You're not looking for dark. You're looking for complex.
Yeah, layered.
It's one thing for a story to be dark. There are Batman stories that are dark for sure. There are Turtle stories that are dark. There are, one of my favorite Spider-Man stories of all time is Kraven's Last Hunt, which is quite possibly the darkest Spider-Man story of all time. And it's not one of my favorites because it's dark. It's one of my favorites because it's so rich and it's so complex. What it does for Spider-Man, what it does for Kraven, what it does for Mary Jane. Those characters right there are fundamentally altered because of that story. Mm-hmm. And for as dark as it is, it was the follow-up to Peter and Mary Jane's wedding. So you got this really wonderful, great story where they get married, and then bam, you're right into this dark story where Spider-Man is buried alive and missing for months. And it's, one of the most intense things that I had read at that point, and even still to this day, it holds up for me. And
I remember Gwen Stacy's death.
Yeah. That's a turning point.
I remember reading that, just going, "Oh my god!"
And this was a year or two after he lost Captain Stacy.
Yeah.
So it's that really, like you said, everybody's kind of weaving the tales together when they're writing, and all the best writers for me are not writing to serve themselves. They're writing to serve the character. Mm-hmm. You can tell all the stories that you want to tell as long as who that character exists, they remain and they grow. They should always grow as people because that's what they are. Yeah. And if you are not treating them as real flesh and blood, tangible people, then why should I care about what story you're going to tell? And they can be big, giant talking turtles. They can be dudes in, tight costumes and leotards and all that. Or it can be, a couple friends hanging out at the chocolate shop in Riverdale. It doesn't matter. If there's a sense of tangibility to it, then you've done your job, and you set up for the next person. Speaking of Riverdale, you anticipating an Archie revival soon with the... it's actually... There's a show coming, right? Yeah, the Riverdale show. It's going to be really funny because we're going to be doing an Archie pop-up show in here. So we're going to have a bunch of art from different collectors and different friends of ours who have worked for Archie over the years. And at IDW, we do foreign printing for Archie, and we do archival material for Archie. So it's not totally out of our wheelhouse to do Archie stuff here in the gallery. But it's going to be an interesting year with that show But I'm kind of hoping that the show captures the audience in the way that Archie's revival line has, with like Mark Waid and Fiona Staples doing Archie, and then I think it was like Chip Zdarsky and Erica Henderson on Jughead, and Adam Hughes on Betty and Veronica. You've got like the best of the best writers and artists working in comics in the last 15, 20, 30 years doing Archie stories that aren't and if this can sound like I'm insulting them, but I promise I'm not, the supermarket Archie stories, where you just pick it up off the rack at the supermarket and you put it in with your groceries.
Right.
Now it's fully realized stories, and you have made Archie real. You've made Jughead real. You've made Betty and Veronica real. And I think
that's a comic I never would have imagined would like find a new voice.
And it's been great. Both, all three of those titles have been great. The horror line they do is great. And I'm kind of excited about us getting to do a pop-up show in here with that material, because again, Archie is one of those characters, one of those recognizable brands where even if you are not a regular comic book reader, you've read Archie comics, you've read the Double Digest, you know the characters, you watch the cartoons, whatever era cartoon you grew up with, you know Josie and Sabrina and all of that. So it's just, Archie is a mainstay, and so it's going to be cool to be able to have that kind of material in here, just because again, it's something where you don't have to read comics to know it, and you get stoked to see it because you get the warm fuzzies.
When will that pop-up happen?
We are shooting within the next month or so. We're finishing up getting the art that we'll have on loan from different artists, but we've already got a couple pieces. I think there's a couple Dan Parent pieces, which is really cool, and we'll have some Archie collectibles and memorabilia in here as well to kind of go along with the show. We always try to have some physical representation of the characters or the brands in here with the art that we showcase. So, of course, we'll always have like Turtle toys, and then like with all the Transformers art, we've got all the Transformers toys and all the Godzilla collectibles and
all the other marketing type stuff.
Especially with us at IDW, so many of our titles are licensed titles that have their roots in toys. So it's always cool to see not just how those toys have influenced us, but like with Transformers, the case that we have in there, all those toys in there are based on what we're publishing. So it's very cool. All those toys are designed by different artists of ours.
That's a heck of a case of toys, man.
Yeah. My girlfriend's glad they're out of the house. So that's worked out twofold for me.
So where did you grow up?
Born and raised in New York City.
New York City?
Yeah.
Yeah, what part?
Born in the Bronx, raised in Manhattan. Grew up down in the Village. So it's home.
Yeah.
But I hate snow, so I love San Diego.
Thank you. Yeah, I hate snow too.
I'm so over snow. My father was the super of the building I grew up in, so if there was a snow day and he had to shovel, that meant I had to shovel too. So
you get over it pretty quick.
Oh yeah, kick rocks barefoot. I love it out here though. And it was cool because growing up where I did, there's a 5-block radius with a comic shop wherever you went.
Right.
And especially growing up in the 90s, it was super cool because in my neighborhood alone, there was at least 6 or 7 different comic book stores and like 9 or 10 record stores and all that. So no matter what you were into, if I wanted to go pick up my weekly comics and then pick up like a Pixies album or whatever, it was easy to go from one place to the other and then go grab a bite to eat. So.
That's the beauty of New York.
Oh yeah, it was great.
All the food you want, pretty much all day long, all night long. All the music you want,
all the entertainment that you want,
there,
everything is at your fingertips. Yeah. And I'm
you just have to share it with 12 million other people.
Exactly. So now I'm kind of relearning how to live without all that out here. But it's great, man. San Diego is such a, no matter what you like, there's something, except for football, obviously, after today. But no matter what you're into, there's something for you out here. And I love that the comic book culture out here is starting to become so much more than just Comic-Con. Because one of the things that I found kind of jarring when I moved out here, I thought there were comic shops all over.
Right, but that's the home of Comic-Con. It's exactly the mecca of comics.
And this is coming from a guy from New York, but I figure, man, there's got to be at least comic shops in different neighborhoods at the very least or whatever. And the comics community out here
It fluctuated.
Yeah, it's not as big as I thought it was going to be.
Because when my kids would go to the comic store, it'd be like, "Oh, that'd be really cool."
Yeah.
3 weeks later, the comic book store is closed.
Yep. And now I find, and I don't want to say, it's certainly not because of the gallery, but I find that there are more like-minded people who are finding one another, and they're starting to build this community. And what's great about that is whenever we do signings and events, I see a lot of the same people come back in, and it's not, they're coming back in because they're looking to get signed books and flip them or anything like that. Some of them are even coming to see each other,
right?
And I love that.
Yeah, we were here the other night for the signing that you had,
right.
and we were watching and paying attention to what was going on with everybody, and there were just little cliques of people who were hanging out, talking. They had no interest in the signing whatsoever.
Or they go over and they look at some art and they talk about the art.
Yeah, it was
and they're
great to watch.
Multi-generational too.
Yeah, it was great to watch.
Which I thought was very fun because people were bringing in their parents and or their children.
Yeah, and now we're almost at 3 generations of the Turtles, which is frightening.
That's so weird to hear.
Oh, totally. But
my 6-year-old nephew, he's totally into the Turtles.
My girlfriend's niece is 6. She just started getting into the Turtles, and so she loves whenever I bring Turtles toys and things like that. And I'm happy to see that the comics community in San Diego is growing in a way that I wasn't expecting it to grow as fast as it has in the last 2 years. But, I want people to come in here and feel like that this is their home, So if you're not necessarily, you're coming in to see the art and then you see someone, you start talking, or you meet someone for the first time, you start talking. That's great. This is your gallery too. This is San Diego's comic art gallery. It's not just the San Diego Comic Art Gallery. And I take a lot of pride in seeing not just people get stoked about comics, but getting stoked about people who are into comics, and seeing such like-minded people, and even seeing people who have never read a comic before are reading it for the first time, and they feel comfortable about people in here who are talking to them about it, because comics can be intimidating. Fandom can be intimidating.
And I worry about that because, let's face it, the movies are a lot of people's entryway into the comics world. And people say, I like this, I went and saw this, and then they get just pounded by the vicious nerds on the internet for liking something. And it's like, what is wrong with you guys?
How could you like
we
that?
spent years fighting against people giving us grief for being nerds. Don't bag on somebody who said they like something.
Absolutely.
And I hope that those people who are listening to this show, who are getting into comics because they've found them through Netflix or the films or TV, comicdom, nerddom is not the internet. Don't be detracted from coming down to a gallery like this. Yeah. Don't be detracted from going to your comic book store. Don't be detracted from coming to the gallery. You will find people who will welcome the fact that you are just entering into a new world of appreciation, and they will guide you through it. They will show you the best things to look at from their perspective. They will encourage you to discover things and learn and go back, and they'll tell you about previous issues of books and what the best runs were and who the best artists are and who the good writers are. And it's so wonderful to get exposed to that and into that. Don't be detracted.
Yeah, it's not just the flavor.
Come down, talk to TJ.
Week.
He'll take care of you.
Oh yeah,
there's such a history to this, and there's such a real good, I would say, art. The real art to comic books.
Absolutely. My favorite thing about comics is talking about comics. I love. I love talking about, what's my favorite story, my favorite artist, or what's your favorite story, what's your favorite artist. But my favorite thing, and it was when I managed the comic book store back home, whenever I would get someone who had never read a comic book before, the first thing I'd ask them was, what's your favorite movie? Then they talk about what their favorite movie is. Then you find the comic that you feel is tailor-made for them. They come back and they say, that was amazing. I really trust your recommendation. What else do you have for me? And that's all this is. I mean, everybody starts somewhere. I started with the Superpowers toys. Then I got to Batman the Animated Series a few years later. And that's the best. That's really
moving picture representation of Batman.
Oh, absolutely. There is no Batman outside of comics better than Batman the Animated Series. And And so much of it is because it's accessible to new viewers, to new fans. But Batman is so what you want him to be in terms of dark and grim and scary and totally and utterly compassionate.
Yep.
You know, I tell everybody all the time that the 2-part Robin origin episode is the perfect example of Batman knocking down doors and shaking down bad guys, and Batman telling Robin that he was afraid of him going after his parents' killer because he was afraid he was going to lose Robin, you know? Mm-hmm. And it's that great balance of characterization. And anybody who has never read comics before, it sucks because they're always going to have questions, and there's going to be people who talk at them rather than talk to them. And my favorite thing is talking to readers and non-readers about comics and, you know, telling them, oh, well, you should be reading this because X, Y, and Z and blah, blah, blah. And it's, you know, it's like I said earlier, anybody who loves something wants to share it. Mm-hmm. You know, that's really, it's such a big deal. You know, and someone will ask me, oh, well, what's your favorite comic book of all time? I'll say, well, I'll tell you my 3 favorite comic books of all time. And then, you know, and you just get like that. And
they're from different genres.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. You know, it couldn't be further apart from one another with a lot of it, but that's great. That's, you know, it's like I said, you know, it's one night I want pepperoni, the other night I want pineapples. Right. You know, so it's always going to be that with comics.
Yeah. When I was a kid, it was Superman, Spider-Man, and the Turtles.
Nice. Oh, totally.
Those were my 3 primary, and then the X-Men came in behind that.
Mine was Superman, Batman, Archie's.
Nice.
And then Richie Rich.
Oh, cool. The Harvey Tunes, all that. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Casper and
all those
Hot Stuff,
guys.
All that. Yeah. Mm-hmm. You know, when I
watched all the animated versions
right.
of those.
I watched them too. And
of course, the Super Friends.
Yep. You know, when I was a kid, it was all about Robin, just because I didn't want to be Batman, because Batman seemed scary and sometimes he seemed sad to me, and not pathetic. I mean, like, he seemed like he was sad. And Robin.
Well, and when you're a kid, you don't understand Batman's sadness the way you do when you're older,
for sure. And but Robin seemed like he was having fun, and it was well,
Robin was on a journey of discovery.
Exactly.
And so at that age too, so were you.
Yeah, and so that was perfect for me as a kid. So it was, well, I don't want to be Batman, but I can totally be Robin and hang out with Batman. So that was really cool. And then Spider-Man, you know, I grew up in New York. You know, I went through my fair share of some stuff as a kid, and Spider-Man was easy to relate to. So there was that. And then the Turtles, again, you know, from New York. So it was easy to get into them. But then it's great because as you get older, you find, you know, there are series that you love that have nothing to do with any of the stuff that you love as a kid. You still love all that stuff, but then your taste changes, it grows, it expands. And, you know, I always liked that, you know, in my Desert Island books, because everybody's got Desert Island books. I think maybe only 2 of them are superhero books.
Yeah.
You know, which is funny because, you know, all my tattoos are superheroes, all that. But it's while it's something that I love the most, it's not the only thing that I love.
Right.
You know, and I love what
none of
us can do.
None of us are ever just one thing.
Exactly. Well, it's like, you know, when I was growing up, you know, I was into punk rock and I was into hip hop. And it was, you know, I was always, well, what, you don't like one or the other? It's like, well, why would I do that? You know, that's not fun. Yeah. You know, cutting yourself off from anything isn't fun.
Yeah.
So,
you know, I'm a 41-year-old male who loves, you know, Katy Perry and Taylor Swift.
There you go.
And, like, you know, my brother-in-laws, they're always rolling their eyes at me like, dude. I'm like, no, man, this stuff's fun. It makes me happy.
Well, it's just like you looked at me the other day when I said I like dance music. I mean, I like techno and dance music.
Yeah, I asked Carla.
And I'm old enough almost to be his mother.
What music do you like?
I mean, come on now.
She's like, I like EDM. I'm like, what?
There you go. Well, you know, Joey Ramone had always said that his ultimate goal for the Ramones was to be on the radio. You know, he always said that they were a bubblegum band. And, you know, you've got, you know, talking about like the comic book snobs, you've got music snobs who, you know, will talk about, you know, if it's on the radio, that means it's bad. And, you know, that was Joey's ultimate goal, was for the Ramones to be on the radio. You turn the dial and bam, you know, I Want to Be Sedated is playing. And to the point where Archie just did that Archie Ramones miniseries. Like, that right there is the pinnacle of what Joey Ramone was looking for that band. Because there's nothing in comics more bubblegum than the Archies.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
So it's just that perfect meeting of two great tastes that taste great together in that sense. And, you know, that's the beauty of all of this is,
well, I think it has
its strengths.
There's a humanity to everything, and it's finding the humanity. When this stuff works is when I think, yeah, somebody might be a superhero, but when you can see the person in them, when you see that heart, and I keep telling people, like, I love the Marvel movies. Like, I think I think the Marvel movies do a really good job of encapsulating that humanity within the characters, light and dark both, you know. But there's one moment, and I've come back to it a few times. There's one moment that sums up the entirety of the Marvel success in that for me, and it's the exchange between Captain America and Spider-Man in Civil War. Where, you know, you got heart, kid. Where you from? You know, that little exchange. It's 3 lines, mostly single words. Says everything about why I love those Marvel movies.
It's funny you should mention that scene because my girlfriend and our friends, we went to see it in the theater, and it was really funny because I started laughing at that scene, like giggling, and she started laughing, and I knew why she was laughing because she gives me crap about New Yorkers. We can't just say, "Oh, I'm from New York." Like, what did you say? You know, what did you say to me? You know, like, I'm born in the Bronx, raised in Manhattan. Like, every one of us reps our borough in a way that people from, you know, other places they don't do that. People here,
is it New York thing or is it an East Coast thing?
It's very much a New York thing. You know, like
it's a New York.
Any of my friends back home, you know, oh yeah, I'm from Brooklyn. You know, I'm from Brooklyn, Flatbush. You know, they'll talk about what neighborhood they're from. I'm from Brownsville, you know, from the Bronx, Arthur Avenue, or, you know, Castle Hill and all that. Yep. And it's such a perfect scene because it's not just, you know, oh, I'm from New York. Like, you know, Peter right there is from Queens. And, you know,
there's
Captain
such
America
an identity
immediately
to just a set of blocks.
Yeah.
You know, just an area of just a few blocks.
You know, I have to explain to my girlfriend quite often about what it is to be from New York and to grow up there and everything, and how, you know, we don't call Manhattan, we call it the city, you know. But I have to say Manhattan on the podcast because not everybody's going to understand what I mean when I say the city.
Because there's lots of cities.
Exactly. So, you know, there's the outer boroughs and the city. Yep. You know, it's Brooklyn, Bronx, Queens, Staten Island, the city. You know, but if you live in the outer boroughs, it's we're going to go into the city.
Yep.
So it's that perfect moment in that scene where Captain America and Spider-Man, for someone like me, become even more real than they were before because now they talk like me.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. And Tom Holland is so good at getting a bit of that Queens accent going on in there too. You can hear a little bit of that going on with him, and it's perfect. It's perfect in every conceivable way it can be. And you talk about realism. To me, again, realism isn't talking about, you know, Batman, you know, again, Batman losing the cartilage in his knees and retiring, and that's nonsense. Realism to me is, you know, exchanges between Peter and Tony, where you know, when Tony says, "Oh, you know, is that why you're doing this? You're looking out for the little guy," and Peter's like, "Yeah, that's exactly it," and not telling him, "I'm doing this because I'm totally guilty because my uncle died and it's my fault."
Right.
We already know that. We don't need to hear it. But it works in a way where if Peter avoids having to talk about that, he doesn't have to talk about power and responsibility, and he doesn't have to talk about the guilt that he carries. You know, it's enough to hear him say, if you've got the ability to do something and someone gets hurt because you didn't do something, it's your fault.
Right.
You know, and that to me, I tell everybody, especially in fiction, tangibility is everything. If a character is intangible, I don't care.
Yeah.
You know, and in that moment there, you know, it's like, you know, Cap is tangible, Peter is tangible. Yeah. You know, even hearing
Cap was so true to the spirit of Cap, because here he is battling against Spider-Man, but not holding it against him.
Yeah, he knows this is a kid who's trying to do the right thing too.
You know, yeah, well, we're all on our sides.
Every time Ant-Man talks to Cap, and it's, well, hello, Captain America, and you know, it's just this idea of, oh my gosh, I'm a superhero and I'm around these dudes, and that's Captain America. What am I going to do? And it's great because every one of us has been out of our element before, and we don't know necessarily what to do when you're out of your element.
Yeah,
and
when you meet your heroes.
Exactly. And
whether they're superheroes or just regular guys.
Sure.
We all have that moment of fangasming where we don't know what to say.
And even Steve would say he's just a regular guy. You know, he always says, you know, I'm just a kid from Brooklyn. And although
this is my job.
Although I have to say, if any of my friends back home are listening, I've got a few friends who get mad that Cap in the movies is from Brooklyn because they'll always talk about, well, Cap's from the Lower East Side in the comics. So I'm making sure that I say that just in case. But so they know I'm referencing that. But
nice save,
right? I'll hear it. Trust me. But that's again, all of this stuff, fiction as a whole. If there's no takeaway, then why are you going to? Mm-hmm. It's really, really such a big thing.
Yeah.
And it's going to be nice to see as all that grows, and you just want to hope that anything that's adapted. I mean, like Winona Earp for us, those characters are all so well rounded and they're so different from one another. It's not just about, okay, cool, Winona has her great grandfather's enchanted gun and she's going to send all them back. Now it's, the responsibility of not just dealing with what she has to deal with now, but the responsibility of coming to terms with her past. Every one of us deals with that.
Right. Every
one of us has something that's happened in our past that's come back, or you're afraid is going to come back, and you have to figure out what to do. And that's how you make comics real. It's not about who curses the most and who's
got the badass toys.
Yeah,
Well, that's fun.
That's fun.
Sure.
It's fun, but it's just the spicing on top of the pizza.
That's the decoration.
Exactly. It's really just about finding the thing that speaks to you and what you get out of it and how you use that to influence you. I mean, that's all of us. And all of us who read comics are influenced by all this stuff, but then it's how do you use it to influence the next person?
Right.
What do you do to make the next person's life a little bit better or impact them through the stuff that you love? And
within series and like you got to get it out in 22 pages.
Mm-hmm.
And between the writers and the artists and stuff, they've got to really collaborate both visually and with the dialogue.
And I think it's exciting that all that gets to come to life in a way that nothing else in any form of entertainment does. I mean, I think there's a great quote, and I might kind of misquote it. Harlan Ellison had once said that there are only three true forms of American entertainment. It was jazz, baseball, and comic books. Mm-hmm. And I always like that because each of them are so quintessentially American, but have had such great success in other areas.
Right.
Baseball in South America and Japan is huge. Jazz in France is ginormous. And then comic books, obviously, I mean,
all over the world.
Between the Franco-Belgian region, Japan, the UK, Australia, wherever.
And they've managed to spin off and create their own little universes. And, with anime and and the like.
Well, you look at some of the stuff that we've done over years. I mean, we're the American home of publishing Judge Dredd, and there are a few comics that are as British and as, UK, like British Steel, like Judas Priest, the way Judge Dredd is,
right.
And it to me, that stands shoulder to shoulder with some of the best stuff of the last 40 years is, 2080, ABC Warriors, all that stuff. So it's cool. I mean, it constantly... Comics are constantly evolving and becoming something different sometimes, and mostly for the better. I think there are ways we can get new readers in. I think there are other things that we can be doing. But overall, I think this has been the best time for getting people to read comics because it's accessible. The most popular TV show on TV is The Walking Dead. Most popular movies are the Marvel movies. Most popular video game is the Batman movies. Then we've got two shows at IDW on TV right now between Winona Earp and Dirk Gently, and it's so
Gently was great.
Oh, it's so much fun, and it's so cool because you'll have people talk about Comic-Con and they'll say, well, it's film and television and animation and video games and toys and then comic books. But what people seem to forget is that comic books are last, not because we come in last, but we, as an industry, hold everybody else up. We're a totem pole.
You're the base.
We're the base of it, and nobody has... I don't want to say nobody. There are very few who are pumping out new and original and exciting content in film and television and animation, whereas our job in comics is to come up with new and innovative and exciting material every month.
Well, what is it? Comic-Con calls itself now the pop culture convention.
Yeah, the celebration of popular arts.
And really... comic books are the foundation.
Absolutely,
of
we
popular culture
are
right now.
popular arts, and Comic-Con does. It's
And
still
even stuff that starts out like in film, finds its way into the comics.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Star Wars,
Well, I
great
mean,
example.
Farscape was a television show, and it went into comics.
Oh yeah. We've got a lot of comics that we do here that all come from film and television. I mean, for years we did Doctor Who, we did Angel, we did Spike. Transformers, Star Trek, G.I. Joe, all that is huge for us right now.
Yeah.
Star Trek might be, for what it's worth, I think the Star Trek comics that we're putting out are the best Star Trek comics in the history of that brand, of that franchise. As a guy who likes Star Trek but didn't like Star Trek comics growing up because they were boring to me.
Yeah, like I haven't read a Star Trek comic in
our Star
years.
Trek books are exciting,
Really?
and action packed but thoughtful and mindful. There's a great issue.
I guess the last Star Trek comic I read was the ones that led into Darkness. That little mini series. Like that's the last. I liked them. I was really impressed by them.
The stuff that we've done with the Movieverse is great, and Mike Johnson, who wrote all that stuff. There's an issue where the red shirt who beats up Kirk in the bar in the first of the new movies.
Mm-hmm. He's been on our podcast.
Oh, awesome! Yeah, there's an issue about him writing home to his parents about the red shirts being the laughingstock, but him taking great pride in being a red shirt and why it's so important to him, and it's such a great, perfect, single, done in one issue story, and you get to understand a certain group of characters. And you get to understand the main characters through the eyes of them, and that's cool. Things like that to me are amazing because you get to take this thing that maybe turn it around a little bit and see it from a totally new point of view, and that's what we should be doing all the time in storytelling and comic books and all that. It's it doesn't always have to. It's like we said earlier. It doesn't always have to be reinventing the wheel. You just have to drive the car.
Right.
Right.
So the gallery, is it open
Wednesday through Saturdays? We're open till 6:00. Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday we open at 1. Saturdays we open at 11. Okay. Depending on the season, we'll be open on Sundays as well. We're closed on Sundays right now just because it's kind of a quiet time for us on Sundays. But then once by spring, summer rolls around, we'll probably be open on Sundays again.
Cool. And you're here at Liberty Station.
Yeah. Well,
why choose Liberty Station?
Why not? It's awesome over here. It's so cool over here.
I was telling Carla, I think these were the barracks my dad was in during boot camp.
That's amazing.
Like this building, I'm pretty sure Barrack 3 was my dad's building.
Yeah. It's so cool with people who come in who were in the Navy and they did their training here, because they'll tell you, and the bed was over here, and the first aid kit was over here, and they will tell it to you like they were there yesterday, and it's just there's such a history over here that you can't get anywhere else. But then on the flip flop, what's great about the offices being here is it just feels like this big sprawling sort of campus. And if you got to get away from the computer for a little bit, go for a walk, you can do that. You want to get a coffee.
There's nice gardens and stuff all around.
It's beautiful.
There's an ice skating rink.
Yep. The ice rink just closed actually for the rest of the year though. But it was great though. I love ice skating, so it was nice to be able to go and do that. The public
Who needs Rockefeller Center?
And there's apparently a big arts community out here.
Yeah, that's the arts district over here, and between us and then outside the lens, the photography studio, FX Dojo, Watercolor Society, there are so many different things to see. I mean, Point Loma Tea is great, The
Writers' Workshop is right across the street.
Yeah, and then you've got the Liberty Public Market between all the restaurants in there, and then the mess hall and bottle craft, and there's all these different things to eat and drink, all these different
you can really come down here and make a day of it.
Oh, yeah. It's awesome. And I always get excited because a lot of the people who come in, they come in for the market now, and then they start exploring everything else, and it's great because usually with the gallery, it's, oh my God, I had no idea you were here. Oh my God, I loved the Ninja Turtles when I was a kid. Oh my God, they still make comics. So it's great because then I get to talk to them about any of that stuff. Yeah. And, I'm not the one who has to engage them. They start the conversation immediately, and they're happy to. They're excited to. They want to talk about all of this. And it
makes your job so much easier.
You know what? Yeah, but also it makes my job so much happier. You know,
Yeah.
I like that sense of friendly. I like that sense of people wanting to come in and just talk about anything. I don't care if you don't want to talk about comics and you're talking to me about, you know, what the food you just tried over there, or the outside festival that was over here. You know, that's great. Talk to me. You know, I just like seeing people over here feeling pleasant and good and friendly, because this whole area fosters that lifestyle. You know, everything about Liberty Station to me is just kind. It's nice, it's cool, and it's welcoming. And I love that we get to be here for that.
Cool. Well, thank you for sitting down and chatting with us.
Oh, my pleasure.
You're an incredibly personable person. So
I try to be.
Anybody who wants to come down to the gallery, man, ask for TJ, because he'll hook you up. He'll show you around. Like, this place is
and don't
amazing.
forget to check out like the website.
Yeah,
because you
absolutely.
post the Friday, the first Friday of
Yep.
every month. You do the artist signings.
Yeah.
So-
SDcomicartgallery.com. Check us out on there. Then Facebook and Twitter is the same thing.
SD Comic Art Gallery. Cool.
Yeah.
Thank you, TJ.
My pleasure. Thank you so much, guys.
Thank
This
you.
has been awesome, and come back anytime. You know, we're always putting up new exhibits about every 3 to 4 months, depending on the subject matter. Sometimes some of it takes a little longer, some a little shorter, but there's literally always something new to see.
Yeah, we'll definitely come back.
Thank you so
count on it.
much.
That was a wonderful episode. Thank you to TJ and the San Diego Comic Art Gallery for hosting us. We had a really good time chatting with them, and we hope that you'll swing by there soon and take a look at all of the art. It's really fantastic. It's fun for the whole family. Really, it's just going to satisfy the nerd side of you. So just go down to San Diego Comic Art Gallery at Liberty Station. You'll enjoy it. And I want to make sure to, well, kind of announce and tell everybody to join us on February 27th when The Intellectual goes to television. That's right. We're going to launch The Intellectual Talk Show on KSDY Channel 50 with our sister program Tonight in San Diego on KSDY. And it's going to be great. We've got a nice list of guests that will be joining us on the TV show, including Nathan Darrow from TV's Gotham and Netflix's House of Cards. And we've got San Diego legend Shotgun Tom Kelly joining us on the TV show. It was an honor to have him on the podcast, and I'm even more honored that he's going to come and join us for our TV show as well. They're just a couple of a long list of people that we're getting together for the show. I think you're going to really enjoy it. So we launch on February 27th on KSDY Channel 50. So be on the lookout for further announcements about the talk show. And, you know, if you're looking to advertise, there are opportunities to advertise on our talk show, on our podcast, and on our website. Be sure to contact us at info@theintellectual.com or call us at 760-456-9469 to inquire about opportunities to advertise with the Intellectuals. Until next time, thanks for joining us here at the Intellectual Podcast. I'm your host, Dave Dawson, and we'll talk soon.